Hello and welcome back to another episode of Magic Connections. My name is Andrew Lee. For those of you who are watching this for the first time, Magic Connection is about sharing the mystery with magicians from all over the world. We hope to inspire one another during these crazy times. We create magic, we create memories, and most importantly, we connect magicians from the east to the west. Now, our guest for the night is a recipient of the Milbourne Christopher Illusionist Award, becoming one of 20 magicians in history with this recognition. He was the magical Zingmaster for Ringling Bros and Barnum Bailey circus, and is the first magician to be the star of the greatest show on earth. Aside from all his other accolades, he has worked with Grammy Award winner Taylor Swift, creating a piece of magic for her world tour. And he has also made Whoopi Goldberg levitate. Alex recently received a CBS Sunny Award for creativity during Shelter in Peace for his virtual magic shows. Please put your hands together and welcome Alex Ramon. Hey Alex, thank you for joining us today. I've seen a couple of your virtual shows, once with Adam Shire, David Copperfield has seen your show, and once with Jeff McBride. Tell us about 35 in 35.
Yeah, so before, COVID and any of that happened, I had challenged myself to do a tour that I was calling 35 in 35. That was the name of the tour. I had challenged myself to do 35 shows in 35 days in 35 different cities. It was going to take place across the entire West Coast of the United States. We had 5 states. And I mean, it was literally all over. We were staying in some Airbnbs, some hotels. I did a stint on a cruise ship in different cities, porting out of there. I mean, it was just this epic kind of tour. And I was I was stoked. I was looking forward to it. And I had to design the show that would play anywhere and that I could travel with easily. So it wasn't like Illusions, but it was a stand-up show with close-up magic. And I figured out how to travel with a TV, so I could use that as a monitor, so you could see overhead shots of close-up magic. And so it was like this whole thing that we had designed. And then, right when COVID happened, I was supposed to be from April 1st until May 5th. And then that the San Francisco Bay Area was like the first location in the United States to be quarantined. And within 2 days,
Wow.
all 35 cities and 35 hosts canceled. And rightfully so. I mean, that's just what happens with everything. And so I kind of faced this idea, like, I was like, wow, okay, I just lost that whole tour. Oh, okay, what am I going to do? I guess I have the month off, right? And I kind of thought of it that way for like a few days.
Right.
But at the other end of it, I go, well, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how long this is going to last. Like, are we going to be good for the summer? And, you know, this is back in March. So none of us knew anything. And so I kind of thought, you know what? I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do them all virtual. And I jumped on like right away and I started doing these virtual shows every day. I did. And so here was the challenge, right? The challenge was I had one show that I had ready to go, designed to perform in 35 different locations, just like you would in a tour. Where when I knew that I was going to do them virtually, I knew that I'd have people watching every night. And I did. I have many people that would watch every single night. And I had to do a different show. So that was the challenge, was to do a different magic show for 35 nights in a row. I never repeated a trick. And the final number for the magicians, right? The final number was I did over 156 different magic routines. And not only that, I had to, you know, structure it so that way it got more exciting and built as the tour went on. So the last, like day 31, day 32, day 33, I started, you know, bringing out the illusions, and I started doing the underwater escape, and I started, you know, building it up. And so, I mean, needless to say, it turned into this amazing experience, an amazing journey. And I had a lot of growth that happened during that month. And it just put me in a good position to be able to navigate this, you know, scenario that we're all in. And I started doing virtual shows, and I've done many, many, many. And that was the 35 and 35. And it turned out better than what I had hoped it to be when I made it virtual, to be honest.
Wow, that is a lot of routines, and by changing up these shows over time, you build a community of people watching from different materials all the time. I mean, burning through a lot of
Right.
materials, and I mean, you got to make sure that you're not repeating the same tricks, the same principles in magic. Tell us about your thought process and the routining of these shows.
Yeah, it's exactly right. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's not just not repeating the same trick, but the same plots. So, like a TNR, right? Okay, you do TNR paper, but then it's like TNR tissue paper, or is it like gypsy thread, or is it TNR card, cut and restored rope? Like, it's always destroy and repair, right? You always have that plot, or matrix routines, right? There's a lot of matrix routines that are all similar. You know, you have similar plots. So it's not that I didn't repeat a trick, is I had to make sure that I spaced out plots, because of course I did TNR paper, of course I did gypsy thread, of course I did a cut and restored rope. But I had to make sure there was enough time space between them that it wasn't like, oh, we just saw this, we just saw this, we just saw this, right? So that was part of it. So my formula, or not my formula, my structure and how to do it was like, I literally wrote 1 through 35. I was like, all right, day 1. And I put like little, you know, marks of the routines, and I write down the routines. And the second week was the hardest week, because the first week, I kind of got through material that I was familiar with to get me going. And I knew towards the end that I'd do the illusions, and I had some bigger stuff that I was ready to go with that. But in the middle, especially that second week, I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? Like, I still have, oh my gosh, I still have 29 days left, you know? And so that is when I was really having to concentrate on this, basically how I was going to navigate that without repeating plots, but also routines that I'm working on that needed practice. Like some routines we can kind of look at, we could do, and we go, okay, I got the hang of it. I can do it. No problem. I can do it out of the gate. But then there's other routines that take practice and rehearsal. So it's like, if I wanted to do this new routine that was like, I want to do the linking safety pins. It's like, you can't just do that out of the gate. You have to practice and rehearse. So I'm doing shows, rehearsing material in between that, in that evening or during the day, for a routine that I'm going to do in 2 weeks that I have to drill and I have to get down. So, I mean, and then of course, some of the routines I did, I would do like that eased my job a little bit is on Thursdays. I would say they're throwback Thursdays, you know? And so I would pull video clips of live shows that I had done and say, hey, here's a video of me doing a magic trick on a cruise ship, enjoy. And that was like a 4-minute video. But again, it was a different trick. So the video that I was showing was something different than I wasn't performing, but it kind of allowed me to pull like, oh, here's my old Dove act. And then I can show, you know, this video of that. And so then I taught magic tricks too. So those are segments. But yeah, I mean, it was really, really challenging, but a lot of growth. I think though that Jim Steinmeier saved my life. Conjuring anthology, man. If you do not have that book, get it today. You know, it was a lot of fun, but definitely I'm glad that he has so much material. Jay Sankey too. And you know why? I'll tell you why. Because you wanted routines, not just visuals. See, like a lot of the magic that we're doing now is designed for Instagram, which might be a 30-second video. And these incredible routines. And it's like this, I mean, it looks amazing, or rather not routines, incredible effects that look amazing, but it's like a 5-second trick. It's like, here's the visual and you're done. It's like, how do you turn that into a plot and a routine? Because I want to fill 30-minute show, you know, how do I need time. Right. So that was a challenge too.
Yeah, and because you have this arsenal of routines, the audience get to see something new every time. And over time, you build this whole community of audiences tuning in to see more. I remember the first week you were doing, when doing virtual shows, we would invite all our friends. And when it came to the second week, I was like, oh no, who do I call?
Right. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, and you think of it this way, it was like a TV series. So like when I started doing it day one, I had some people that literally watched all 35 days, all 35 shows. And I had many, many people watch about 30, right? And I mean, that was like committed where they're like, oh, I missed 1 or 2 or 3. And then of course, on the last week, people who tuned in at the beginning and kind of missed them and wasn't as like adamant about making sure they watch every night, but they'd kind of float in and out. But on the last week, they started watching the last week because it was coming to an end. So imagine it's like a TV series where every episode, you have to do a different episode. So by the finale, so on my 35 and 35, on day 35, I said it, 35 and 35, the finale. That was the title of that show, is the finale. And we had over 1,000 people, you know, watching the show from all over the world. And it was incredible. And so the thing about it was people, what you said, tuned in because they knew they were going to see something different every single night, as opposed to when we do our shows and like you said, oh, invite some people and then they're like, oh, we already saw it. And I go, it's different every night. Really? Wow. And, you know, and even now, I just went live real quick on socials and I kind of said to people, I was like, oh, you know, I stopped doing my public shows. I would always do, all through the summer, I was doing a public show every Saturday night and different material. And I stopped them in September because I'm focusing on, I do a few things and people are saying, oh, I can't wait till you do them again. When are you going to do them again? I miss them. I want to see them. And now, because they know that every night they're going to be entertained with something different. It's like the Tonight Show. Every show is different. That's why you have regular viewers. And I treated it more like a TV series than just I'm doing the same show every night like you would when I do my casino runs. When I do my casino runs, I do the same show every night. But here, I change it up. It makes it challenging, but it also ensures that same audience will continue to tune in.
Right. So, I mean, you have done over 157 different routines. And the thing with online shows is that we are limited to a specific effects. No one to inspect your props, pick card, or shuffle cards. What effects works best for you online?
That's a really good question. Of course, interactive tricks are so perfect for this platform. But
Mhm.
I think that what I learned, I think that the strength of those interactive tricks came from because I was doing different shows every night, that when I did do them, it was really exciting. If I did them every single night or I did multiple ones every single night, I don't think it would have been as strong. I think they would have been like, oh, cool, okay, here, this again, or whether it's something with cards in their hands or objects in their hands or something that they do on their fingers. Um, that is different than doing things in your mind where you're like, okay, imagine this, now you're going to do that. You know what I mean? Like there's different kind of mental magic, and then there is more tactile objects and card routine. Yeah, yeah. So those obviously play really well. And I think as magicians, the something that we can easily do and is an easy pitfall to go into is just to do close up.
Mhm.
Right? Just to do close up
Right.
because the camera's there and we do close up magic. We see card, we have a camera down, and that's great.
Mhm.
But people also, I found, enjoyed when I did a stand up piece and there was some production value because now they're seeing a show.
Mhm.
So, I mean,
Right.
it's really, I think the strongest material isn't one specific thing, is that I found that the variety in which I always had in my shows made all of the material stronger, right? So like if you're just doing close-up magic and then at the end you do some piece that maybe is a little bit more elaborate, maybe a little bit larger, a stand-up piece, that might stick out. Whereas
Right.
if you're doing all stand-up material and then all of a sudden you bring it down to a close-up table and you do, a matrix or something, that's what's going to stand out. Going, that was incredible. So again, the strength in the material, I think, what I found came from the variety of material that I was doing. Is that because I had people watching every single Saturday night and every single night, if I was only doing card tricks or I did a card trick every single night, it would get boring. So there's many shows where I go, I can't do a card trick, and I wouldn't do a card trick for 2 nights or 3 nights. And then one night I would say, hey, and I just sit at the table and all I would do is card tricks the whole show. And people love that show. And it's because they didn't see me do card tricks for the last 2 or 3 nights.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess that's kind of a way that I can answer that question. But people love close-up magic, of course. So that's why Zoom and magic virtually is one of the strongest art forms and pieces of entertainment, I think, on this digital and virtual platform.
Right. Yeah, and I think with these virtual shows is that people want to have a conversation with you while doing these shows, rather than just watching a performer who is performing to music the entire time. It's like uploading a video on social media without the interaction. And one thing that I noticed about you is that you do a lot of Instagram and Facebook lives, where you would actually interact with the people as they tune in. So tell us about that.
So yeah, you're right. I very rarely upload videos of me doing magic. Like honestly, almost never. And it's just because I don't enjoy that. I mean, I did years ago. I made some video because when it first started getting, posting online videos. This is like, I don't know, years and years ago. I made a video and I kind of did it just for the camera. It wasn't like really something that could be done in person, and it looked great. I put it out, and within a day or two, it had over 20,000 views, and it was just like, because I did it just for the camera, right? And then I kind of realized, like, I don't know why, and this is silly, but I just kind of go, oh, okay, I get it. Like it wasn't, I didn't enjoy it. I just didn't enjoy it. And so what I do instead is I would do lives every single night and do a new magic trick. And it was great because now people are seeing it. And then of course I would still upload those. I'd still put those up so people can view them afterwards. But I just liked it better. It was more fun, and it's something like that I'm talking to people and there was a real interaction there as opposed to just doing it for a camera. And that's also what I like about Zoom. I think it's funny when people, they talk about virtual shows and they go, well, I like performing live. It's like, you are performing live. It's live, it's just not in person. So I enjoy that aspect. So I rarely upload videos of me doing magic. It's more me doing something live. And I think also people connect with that. And I also, oddly enough, it does make me
Right.
different because they know every time I'm live, that I am live. Like, oh, they get a chance to spend time with me and talk with me and ask me questions, and I can respond and engage, which is why people jump on them.
So yeah, I mean, you have worked with Grammy Award winner Taylor Swift, creating a piece of magic for her world tour. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so working with Taylor was awesome. She was really, I mean, obviously it goes without saying, she's incredibly talented. Um, but I was performing in Hollywood, and I had some industry people come to my show, and they had asked me, one of the women in my show, or attended my show, came up to me afterwards at the meet and greet. She says, "Oh, do you consult?" And I said, "Yeah, I've done different things. What do you have?" She goes, "Oh, well, I'm gonna message you. Do you have a card?" And I said, "Well, just email me and all this stuff." So a day goes by, and actually, I was opening at the Magic Castle the next day. So she called me the next day as we're teching, and I was like, "I can't talk right now." So so we talked the next day, and she said, "Will you come into the production office, and we just want to talk to you about consulting on this magic trick for an artist for this big event coming up." I said, "Okay." So I go in there, and they said, "Okay, we want a magic trick, something with a rose. Maybe a rose, maybe not." They kind of were vague, but they're like, "We think a rose. So what magic trick can we do with that?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, who's the artist?" And they're like, "Well, we don't really want to say." And I'm like, because they're like, it's a big deal. And I'm like, "Okay, well, what's the song?" They're like, "Well, we can't really tell you the song because then you'll know the artist." And I'm like, "Okay, well, is the song a pop song? Is it a ballad? It's like, give me something." to go, "Well, I mean, it's kind of pop, but I mean, it's not, it's a hit." And I'm like, "Okay, so what's the framing? Like, what's going on around it?" They're like, "We don't really want to say." And I'm like, "You're not giving me." I was like, yeah, like, "You're not giving me anything." So I sat there for like maybe 30 minutes, and I just kept saying different ideas with roses. And I'm like, "Okay, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. Well, how about this?" And like, they're just like, "I don't know, I don't know, I don't know." And I was like, "Okay, well, what about this?" And then I just said, "What if she grabs," it was a girl, I knew it was a girl, that's all I knew. Like, what if she grabs a rose and the rose bursts into flames, and now the rose is on fire, but like it's still beautiful. It's not hurt. It's not burning. It's not getting hurt. And then she grabs a petal from the rose and she touches the flame. Now she's holding fire in one hand. The rose is on fire in the other, and it's really cool. And they go out, and they're like, "Yeah, that one. Let's do that one." And I was like, "Oh, good, finally." And so, so I mean, and this is more of a special effect. It's not really a magic trick, but it's a special effect that has to do with magic. And um, so they're like, "Okay." And then I'm like, "So who's this for?" And they said, "It's for Taylor Swift. It's the world premiere performance of Blank Space, which was off her 1989 album, which was huge. And it's going to be on the American Music Awards." So, I mean, a really high profile event. And she was opening the show. And so they contracted me to create that effect for her. And then I was doing some other TV show, and I was doing something else. And I'm like, I don't even know if I have time to fabricate this. So I worked with Tony Clark, who's a good friend of mine, great magician, who we worked together on the effect. And then I went in, I trained her for a week, going over and over again. Even as simple as it is, people, as you know, it's like, it's funny, man. I've trained a lot of like dancers, or even I've had collegiate athletes and gymnasts and all these that I've worked with. And every time you teach them magic, they're always like, "Oh, this is really hard. I'm really nervous." And and it's because there's a secret to it, right? And so it's always interesting teaching people, and instructing them how to do it, because it's not as simple as it looks, especially with a magician who has fine motor skills and a depth and knows the techniques and kind of understand. But when you're teaching somebody that has never done any of this before, and you're like, "Okay, well, hold this," and like, let's say in a tenkai, it's like, "Well, tenkai is very natural," and they're like, "Well, how do I do it?" It was like, "Well, keep it on this way, like this." "No, well, you have to have it this way." "Well, like it." "No, you have to have it like." For us, it's just natural. Tenkai, got it, done. But for people who don't know, it's a challenge, and so we definitely faced those challenges with her. But she knocked it out of the park. She was incredible.
Well, guys, that is all from us today. If you like this video, hit that like button, comment below, and if you aren't already subscribed to my channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next